Over the waters of the Caribbean, a harrowing moment captured on video has shaken Washington and stirred fierce controversy. On September 2, 2025, the United States military struck a suspected drug smuggling vessel. The first strike, an airburst munition that exploded overhead, shredding the boat and killing most of the crew. But this is not where the story ends. In footage recently shown to lawmakers behind closed doors, two men, shirtless, unarmed, with no visible weapons or communications gear, were seen clinging to a broken section of the boat. For nearly an hour, they struggled to keep the wreckage afloat, desperately trying to survive. Then, according to sources familiar with the video, the orders came. 3 more munitions were fired at the damaged vessel. You see their faces, their bodies, and then another strike. Boom, boom, boom. The follow-up attack killed the survivors. Behind the closed doors of Capitol Hill, reactions split along party lines. Some lawmakers called the video deeply disturbing, questioning whether the second strike, aimed at men who were clearly incapacitated and shipwrecked, violated the rules of war. Others defended the attack, arguing it was justified because the boat was suspected of carrying drugs destined for the United States.
Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors. Now there's a whole, but what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have 2 individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who were killed by the United States. The Admiral confirmed that there had not been a kill them all order and that there was not an order to grant no quarter.
Yeah, I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States. I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight.
This was the first in what has now become a 22-strike campaign by the U.S. military against suspected drug vessels, a campaign that, by latest counts, has resulted in at least 87 deaths. As the video circulated in Congress, critics say the footage raises serious ethical and legal questions. Did those final moments deserve mercy or a missile?
But to me, the issue under law is, and this would be international law that we're talking about, is the person in the water or did combat or out of the fight? So as we've heard, different lawmakers say different things about that. Obviously, I have not seen the video myself, but the commander is the one with intelligence. And even if we see the video, there's things not on the video that are going to be important to the calculus of whether these people, as have been reported, hanging onto the boat, trying to flip the boat over, are in or out of the fight. Being out of the fight is out of the fight. So if they're engaged in any type of activities, then I would argue that it is not a violation of the law of war. Now, having said that, just because something is legal doesn't mean that a commander must pursue that action. He may have other options. Even if you watch that video, you've got to know, okay, how far off of the coast of Venezuela was this boat? Where are there other forces? If they're saying they're calling other people, where are those people? Where are the U.S. forces in relation to all of this? So those type of things not on the video would be important to me to know whether these people were truly engaged in the fight or not. And the hard part is when we talk about oars to combat, we're really talking about someone floating around in the water helpless. And the initial descriptions, at least that I've heard from Senator Cotton, don't describe that.
This is the problem with this whole premise that there's an armed conflict. There's not, okay? And there was no fight to get back to as a result. What we have are 2 men who were struck out of the blue by an airstrike, okay, clinging in desperation to a vessel and trying to ride it so they don't drown, okay? Seems an incredibly horrific situation, and then the U.S. government kills them, Okay. The premeditated killing of people outside of armed conflict, we typically refer to as murder. Well, we need more transparency across the board. We need the video, full videos, not just of the attack on September 2nd, but for all the attacks, as horrific as these snuff films might be. The American public needs to be confronted with them. Hopefully, it will move the needle in terms of public sentiment and sentiment of focus on Capitol Hill. We need the legal opinion from the Department of Justice that blesses these attacks in some way. And we need a full accounting of the policy processes that led to this boat bombing campaign and what's actually going on within the military, the Pentagon. Or are they actually targeting who's giving what orders? I think this all needs to be drug out into the sunlight. And so there's a lot of work for Congress to do in terms of oversight, and not just limited to this strike and not just limited to the actions of the Department of Defense. Obviously, we haven't seen this video from the second. There's some speculation, and reporting on what it shows. We don't know that for certain. But again, the nuances that are less important than the overarching conclusion that these strikes are almost certainly unlawful, regardless. There is no armed conflict.
The world is now watching, demanding accountability and transparency, even as officials insist the war against narcotics must go on.
A rare classified confrontation on Capitol Hill delivers its clearest headline yet. Admiral Frank M Bradley says there was no kill-them-all order from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. But the video of what actually happened on the Caribbean waves is raising questions far louder than the Admiral's denial. Bradley, the Navy commander who oversaw the September 2 strike on an alleged drug boat, briefed lawmakers behind closed doors. The room split the moment members walked out. Senate Intelligence Chair Tom Cotton defended Bradley, insisting the Admiral was very clear: no order to give no quarter, no directive to kill survivors. But Democrats who saw the same footage say the video tells a far more disturbing story. Representative Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, emerged visibly shaken. His description: two shirtless men clinging to the bow of a capsized boat, unarmed, adrift, waving at one point, until a second round of missiles killed them. Congress is investigating whether Bradley ordered that follow-on strike to satisfy Hegseth's alleged demand to destroy the drugs and eliminate all 11 people on board. Legal experts say such an order, if proven, would violate the laws of military warfare. Bradley denies it. Cotton claims the men were trying to flip the drug-laden vessel back upright to stay in the fight. But Democrats say there was no fight to stay in. No engine, no mobility, no communication, no distress call. Just two men in the water and 4 incoming missiles.
Yeah, I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard, of other narco-terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists. And just like you would blow up a boat off of the Somali coast or the Yemeni coast, and you'd come back and strike it again if it still had terrorists and it still had explosives or missiles, Admiral Bradley and Secretary Hegseth did exactly what we would expect them to do.
Did a drag
Congressman Hines said it's one of the most disturbing things he's seen in his career. Did that match
Who
up
did?
with what you, Congressman Hines?
No, I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels. What's gratifying to me is that the president has made the decision, finally, after decades of letting it happen, that we're going to take the battle to them. And we're going to continue to strike these boats until cartels learn their lesson that their drugs are no longer coming to America.
Did a military JAG say that the second and follow-on strikes were all lawful?
Yes, look, this is not like a firefight in some cave in Afghanistan that had 3 people. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon, at Fort Bragg, at other installations. Dozens of them were lawyers. Everybody was watching. Everybody had seen the intelligence and the legal basis leading up to these strikes. Everyone was present during it, and that continues to be the case. There's been no change in the guidance or the order that the Secretary has given to our troopers. And in subsequent strikes, there is an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants. They were picked up by U.S. forces. Just an example of how, of course, our military always obeys the laws of war. Our military also acts within appropriate lawful authority to target these narco-terrorists.
But Congressman Himes also said that according to what he saw in that video, the 2 who survived trying to get back on the boat, there was no way they could have conducted further operations or anything like that. Do you disagree with?
Jim may disagree with the entire operation. He may be okay with drug boats running to America, or at least thinking that it's an effective tactic to interdict them. I just disagree with that. These are narco-terrorist, foreign designated terrorist organizations who are bringing drugs to our shores that have killed millions of Americans and thousands of Arkansans. If you think these strikes are justified and righteous, as I do, and I want them to continue, then of course the second strike, when you have 2 survivors who are trying to flip their boat back over and continue on their mission, remain in the battle. Unlike a subsequent strike in which there was no such indication, and they were what's called distressed or shipwrecked under the laws of the sea and the law of armed conflict, and our military went out and picked them up.
Is it your expectation that these strikes will continue?
It's my expectation and my deep hope that these strikes will continue.
What about on land? The president has said that strikes could happen on land. Is that something you would support?
If necessary to stop the flow of drugs into the United States and protect our communities and our children, we should take force to these cartels wherever they are authorized.
Should the video be more common as strikes continue?
Say again?
Should briefings become far more common as strikes continue?
No, look, it's not Congress's role to sharpshoot every single tactical decision. This was the first strike, so understandably the Secretary and Admiral Bradley wanted to be involved in it, but subsequent strikes, again, we don't expect admirals and the Secretary of Defense to be approving patrols in Iraq or Afghanistan during the war on terror in those places. They shouldn't be involved in every single decision here, nor should Congress be sitting there sharpshooting and Monday morning quarterbacking.
But yesterday the president told reporters that this is war regarding the actions with Venezuela. So that seems like an escalation that Congress would want to be a part of.
Well, look, they came up here today to brief us because of the lies that were in the Washington Post last Friday to clear the air. I advise the next time to immediately put out what they told us today, because if they had put it out on Friday or Saturday, you wouldn't have this 6 days of controversy. I think you would have had the American people very satisfied that we have such a high degree of professionalism in our military, and the president is taking the battle to these narco-terrorists.
So you believe the whole video should be released in its entirety?
I mean, I'll leave that to the Department of Defense and whether or not there's anything in there they don't want to release. I didn't see anything in there that concerned me. Look, these videos have been made and released for 25 years. Like, you've all seen videos that have been released of drone strikes or helicopter strikes on terrorist groups in Afghanistan or Syria or Iraq or Yemen. There's nothing novel or new here. Just because it happened on water doesn't make any different than happening on land.
So there was no change in protocol or policy from September 2nd through the rest of the strikes?
Nope. General Kane made it clear multiple times under questions from me that the orders have not changed from the first strike to today. So the actions that our military took on September 2nd and the actions they took on a subsequent strike in which there were distressed shipwreck that were deemed non-combatant is happening under the same legal standards and operation order.
Was there a kill-all order from Secretary Hegseth?
No, both. Admiral Bradley was very clear that he was given no such order, not to give no quarter or to kill them all. He was given an order that, of course, was written down in great detail, as our military always does.
But was there a vocal order as well?
There was no vocal order either.
After what you heard today, do you think it's appropriate for Senator Wicker to be launching a continuous investigation into the second strike?
Well, I mean, I think what we saw today and what Senator Wicker and Senator Reid on the Armed Services Committee saw today is a very thorough inquiry into exactly what happened. I can't say what's going to happen on the committee in the future, but I think what happened today with General Kane and Admiral Bradley coming up and showing us the videos, kind of talking through everything that led up to September 2nd, is a very thorough review of what's happened.
No more information is needed from the state.
I don't personally need any more information, no.
If the Senator, how far apart were those strikes on September 2nd?
I mean, they're several minutes apart. You had obscurance, both the smoke from the first strike and then cloud cover as well. I couldn't tell you exactly how long.
But minutes,
they weren't.
Minute.
I think minutes. Yeah.
Minutes, not hours.
Senator,
I don't think so.
Senator, you said that the strikes were righteous, that there were 4 of them. Would you have taken the same shot if you were in that position?
If I was Admiral Bradley and I'd been delegated that authority, absolutely. And I'd do it again.
Was there more than 4 shots?
Based on the briefings.
No, there's 4.
Based on the briefings you received, do you agree with the president that we are at war in these engagements?
These drug cartels have been waging war against the American people for decades, and we are finally simply joining it.
We are.
All right, I got to go vote.